Hello, friends. So good to be with you today. I'll tell you what, I'm glad you're joining me for this leadership podcast. I don't know about you, but it's been really cold around here. I know that a lot of you in other parts of the country have just been seriously cold, but it's colder than what we've been used to. So I'll tell you the truth, I complain so much about the summer. I'm not saying anything about the cold, but it has been a bit nippy. I'm just telling you. So how are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. I do. I hope you're doing well. This is going to be a great year for you. It really is. I know that God's got some things for you that you don't even know. You don't even know what it is yet, but it's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming. It's going to unfold, and it's going to be awesome. But I want to talk today for just a couple of moments about something I think is very important, especially as you're embracing your new year. And that's I want to talk about anger. I want to say just a couple of things concerning what anger is, how it works in our life. Because I tell you the truth, it seems like since COVID, people have just been unreasonable in their relationship with each other. I've seen outbursts in people that, quite frankly, really surprised me. I'm thinking, wow, I didn't realize that was in there. As a matter of fact, in all my days, I don't know that I've ever seen a time when there was so much anger displayed, so much frustration and rage as we have today. And I'm talking about over silly little things, over things that shouldn't be a problem at all. I was looking up, just as I was thinking about this, I was looking up some of the statistics concerning the problem that there was with people losing their cool, basically. And so I checked with the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety, and they had several statistics. Let me just pull up here a couple of them with you. A significant number of U.S. drivers are reportedly engaged in angry or aggressive behavior over this past year. No kidding, according to the study's estimates. Purposefully tailgating is well over 50%. It's over 100 million drivers. Yelling at other drivers, over 50%. That's 95 million drivers that they were talking about there. Honking to show annoyance or anger, 45%. That would be 91 million drivers. Making angry gestures. I mean, it just goes on and on. Trying to block other vehicles from changing lanes. Just spiteful little stuff. You know, things like that. Cutting off another vehicle on purpose. The amount of drivers, the millions of drivers that have done that, getting out of the vehicle to confront other drivers. I mean, you occasionally hear of that happening, but we've been in like an epidemic of people's rage. It's not anger anymore. It has become something else. As a matter of fact, they said 1 in 5 people, that's 20%, say they have ended a relationship or friendship with someone because of how they behaved when they were angry. They were that out of control. And this has truly become a crisis. And it's very important that you keep this aspect of your life in line. Anger has its place, but when anger gets out of place, it can destroy everything. It can destroy your reputation, your friendships, your relationships. It can destroy your life. And this is a crisis. And I'm going to tell you something. The price that people are paying today is very high. Loss of jobs, loss of families, loss of reputation, even loss of freedom because they went to jail. Silly little things over something that probably started very minor. And I've seen people in a rage that literally drove them to the point of almost murder. I mean, they almost became so filled with rage and anger that they became destructive and hurtful to people. And I'm just thinking, good gracious, what is going on? I feel like a lot of this started back during the COVID time. It's like people were boxed in, locked in, and it was just a frustration. It was just a frustration that's been building in people. And it's just like it's exploding. It's like people they get confronted and they just throw up, and it's angry. And people are just acting crazy right now, just loss of control. That's what I want to talk about today, because I think as we're trying to bring you into a place of a successful life, this is something, baby, I'm telling you, you're going to have to know how to control. If you don't control this, it's going to control you and it will destroy your life. Now, maybe you have a problem with anger. This is for you, but I think if you understood it better, you could probably get a handle on it better. And I want to tell you today how this works. This is how anger actually plays a part in our life. So let me first start by defining what anger is, because I really believe there's a misinterpretation of the word anger. Most problems start with anger. At one time it was anger, but it is no longer. It has literally become something else. I realize that maybe the word anger fits our society when we're trying to describe that, but it's not anger anymore. It used to be, but it left that station and now it has become something else. Okay, so by the description of anger, I think although it fits our society, I think it's misrepresented. And if you want to hang with me for just a minute, I promise, just a couple minutes, I'll answer a question I think is really going to help you and it's going to help your family. Okay, now anger. First of all, let's start with that. Anger. Where does it come from? Where does it come from? Anger is an emotion, a response emotion that has been given to you by God. Anger is not bad. Anger is designed in its simplest form. It comes from disorder. When disorder happens in your life, it produces anger in order to fix that. Now, it might surprise you, but anger in that sense is a good thing. So to truly understand it, let me put it like this. Anger is a short-term emotional adrenaline burst. Now, you know what adrenaline does. I've heard stories back in the past of how maybe some heavy object would fall on somebody that you loved, and there was such an adrenaline that rose up in you that it enabled you to do something that you couldn't normally do beforehand. That's what anger is. When there's disorder, anger rises to empower you to do something, to say something in order to fix that thing that's out of order. That's what it is. That's as far as it's supposed to be. Basically, anger is a problem solver. Anger by nature is a problem solver. It helps you have the adrenaline to step into something that you might never say and to say, hey, that's not right. No, we're not doing that. See, and you might not normally say something like that, but you're thinking, wow, where'd that come from? Well, that's anger. That is what anger is. It is a short-term emotional adrenaline burst that helps you confront and solve difficulties when something gets out of order. So we know what adrenaline does. We know how it empowers you to change what you're dealing with. But I want you to notice that with adrenaline, it doesn't stay on you permanently. It didn't stay there but just a moment, just enough to deal with it. So anger is not rage, it's not even loud. Anger is not supposed to be there but just a moment. Anger is not rage. It really isn't even loud. It's not yelling. Anger is not, how can I say that? Long term. Again, anger is an emotional adrenaline, and it's a tool that God gave you to overcome fear, to empower you to correct yourself and others when they get out of order. It's that simple. So it kind of works like this. It says we see disorder, and it causes an energy that we would understand as anger to rise up in us. See, anger has the expression of wrath, because the Bible says that. It says, be angry, but don't sin in your anger, and don't let the sun go down on your wrath. The wrath there is dealing with consequences. In other words, if you see something that's out of order, anger should rise up in you, and there should be consequences or wrath to bring order to that situation. So wrath in this context simply means consequences. That's what it means. Wrath doesn't mean that you go through the club beating somebody over the head with a club. It doesn't. It's not spontaneous emotion. That's not wrath. Wrath is consequences that have been thought out. Wrath is consequences that says this needs to be fixed. So consequences should always be on the table for those who won't correct themselves. You understand? And your disorder has caused anger to rise up in me, so we're going to set that baby in order. We are not putting up with this. So if you don't adjust your pattern, if you don't adjust your disorder, you're going to experience my wrath. And I don't even have to get mad about that. But there will be consequences. We are not going that direction. We're not doing that. I'm not raising my voice. I'm not yelling at anyone. I didn't break anything. This is just anger has come up in my heart. And the consequences are is I've got to fix this thing that has come out of order. See, now most people, when they face something that's wrong, they either become so passive that they can't deal with problems, or they just freak out and start breaking things. But anger is the emotion that empowers us to change the things that need to be changed, to change something when it gets out of order. It's the righteous and godly response to anything that is wrong or destructive. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with anger. Again, let me just give you that scripture. So there in Ephesians 4:26, it says, be angry and don't sin in your anger. In other words, don't do something stupid. You don't have to get out of line. Be angry. The Bible tells you to do that. Be angry, but don't sin. And he said, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. And what that means is, I'm going to take care of things right now. I'm going to bring a solution right now. I'm going to set it in order right now. And so most of the time, anger is so misdirected. I rammed into somebody's car because they're making me late for work, or my spouse is divorcing me, or I was abused as a child, or I was passed over for promotion. I had an unexplained There's a lot of valid reasons that people identify being out of order. Something wrong happens, and this is how I respond, and we call that anger, but it's not. That's not anger. Let me put it like this. I want you to please hear this. This is a real valid point. Most anger is allowed to live beyond the life of the event. When something went wrong, your anger should deal with it. Most people, in their anger, they allow it to live beyond the life of the event. And that's when you know that's wrong. So as a result, frustration, strife, and unforgiveness comes into play. When anger moves out of its boundaries, it can be very destructive. It can destroy careers, it can destroy families, and it's very unfortunate. So let me give you the path. This is how anger moves from one thing to the other. Remember what I said a few moments ago? I said what started out as anger, it was anger, but it didn't anger anymore. Here's the evolution of anger. This is very important, guys. Get this. You see something that's out of order. Maybe you can't do anything about it. But the first thing that you respond with is anger. I've got an adrenaline to be a problem solver here. But if I can't solve it, it turns to frustration. So that's where most people are. They're not angry, they're just frustrated. I can't do anything about it. So if that is allowed to continue, it goes from anger to frustration. The next thing that hits them is rage. They just become mean. They say things that are way out of order. It's almost like they seem like somebody that gets out of control. And when that doesn't fix it there, they turn bitter. You know what that means? The Bible even spoke of a root of bitterness. When something has a root, you've been meditating on that. A lot of people, they do that. Something wrong happened, and that's all they think about. Well, that happened to me. I'll never forget that. They did this to me, and they did that to me, and the more you think about it, you just become bitter in it. So that doesn't stop there. You start with anger, it goes from frustration, it goes to rage, and then it goes to bitterness. Where does it go from bitterness? It turns to hate. And you create a toxic environment of poison. You understand that? It turns to hate. You get to where you just hate. There's a lot of people that you can just see it in their face. Started with anger. It started with something they couldn't fix. They just got frustrated, and then they got enraged, and then bitter, and then it turned to hate. But it doesn't even stop at hate. You know where it goes from there? It becomes evil. You know what happens when it turns evil? A person becomes dangerous. Now see, that's the evolution of anger. Anger, frustration, rage, bitterness, hate, evil. And that's terrible. But anger, in its proper place, is a breakthrough emotion. Is what it is. And again, like I said, if I can, please forgive me if I'm overusing the word, but it's like adrenaline, man. It empowers you to break through the barriers that are frustrating you. So anger empowers you to say what needs to be said, to do what needs to be done. Don't get mean, don't get ugly, don't call people names, but just adjust it. Hey, that's wrong, and we're not going to do that. See, what you're doing is anger has risen up, and your wrath, or basically you're putting consequences to this. If you do that, here's what's going to happen. If you're going to go that direction, I'm not going with you. We'll part friendships before I go that direction. That's consequences. That's the wrath that accompanies the adrenaline of anger. So does that make sense to you? So we've had that a misunderstanding, and you see somebody who just literally hates someone's guts, and you're thinking, why are you so angry? Well, they're not angry anymore. They used to be angry, but they've allowed that anger to turn them into a place that is not healthy for their life, for their business, for their family, for anything about their life. It will literally become like a toxic poison. And I'm telling you something, it's almost like a pressure cooker that blows up. I mean, we carry these unresolved problems until we can't hold it anymore. And when we blow up, people look at us and say, why are you so angry? That's a misdiagnosis. You understand that? That's a misdiagnosis. So when we see frustrated people, when we see anger manifest in most situations, it's not really anger. And that's kind of what I wanted to get with you today. I want you to understand that's the process. So, that being said, if you're dealing with things that are bugging you, maybe you see something that's wrong and you've just been frustrated in it because I can't fix that. And I'm frustrated. We won't say I'm just angry, but really I'm just frustrated. I was angry, but now I'm just frustrated. And you have to be careful, because the next thing that happens is you'll get caught up in rage, and you're going to start yelling and screaming, and pretty soon it's driving you. You're not in control of yourself anymore. That is driving you. And I want to say this: if you're going to be successful in life, you're going to have to control your emotions. You're going to have to. You're going to have to control your mouth. Somebody say, I just want to say something so bad. I understand that. But successful people control that. They control their body. They control their mouth. They control their environment. And people who can't control their mouth, literally, they're like somebody that runs around with this firebrand, just setting everything on fire, and they destroy it all. And then when it's over, they just kind of fold their arms and go, well, wasn't my fault. Well, actually, yeah, it became your fault. Maybe you didn't initiate the thing that made you frustrated, but what you did out of that was you became destructive to everything around you. So you're going to have to make a decision. When you find things that you can't do anything about, you're going to have to make a couple of steps. You're going to have to, on one hand, if somebody has done something to you, you're going to have to forgive them. Sometimes you can't do anything about what's happened, but you don't need to be carrying that baggage throughout your life, because it'll hurt you. It will destroy you. And so if someone's done something to you and you can't change it, let them go in their direction. You can't change them. I've told people before, why don't you get upset about what's happening in this group and that group? And I've kind of jokingly said, look, I can't even make my dog and cat mind. I'm not going to get involved in a bunch of people that are going a direction that's not going to listen to me, because what happens is I feel like something needs to be fixed. And when they won't listen to me, I just become frustrated with it. And then it turns to rage, and then it turns to hatred. And I don't want that. I don't need that. I don't want that bitterness in my life. Okay? So you may need to forgive some people. Get that off your plate. You don't need that. And there's other things that's going to happen that might be frustrating to you. Let's say, for instance, things in the country that you can't do anything about. You hear the political quagmire that we're in. Dear God, what a mess. That's a time when you have to do what the Bible says, casting your care over on Him. Now, that word care is a Greek word. It's spelled Merimna. It means pressure of the mind that's weighed down by responsibility or disquieted by apprehension. You become very apprehensive, and it's just that's a nesting ground. You take all of that, and the Bible said, cast that care over on the Lord. Give it to Him. God, I trust your providence. I trust your ability. I trust you. I trust you to fix this. I can't fix this, and I'm not going to let my anger destroy me. My anger over something that I can't fix because I have no authority there. I'm not going to let that destroy me and turn to bitterness where I see people that are they've got this root of bitterness and hatred for other races, for other people, for other groups that are different than theirs, other political groups, you know what I'm saying. It's just, and don't let that in your head. You are too important for that to stay in your life. And I'm just telling you something, if you're going to be successful in life, you're going to have to deal with this stuff. This will say more about you in people's minds than anything you can do. They may forget everything else that you've ever done good, but I'm just telling you something. When you blow your top, say things you shouldn't say, break something, they will never forget that. That suddenly has defined you and become part of your identity, and you cannot afford that to happen. You're too important to the game to let something like that happen. So this is the understanding of what anger is. And because of the society that we live in today, you need to pull yourself in line to where you're keeping anger in its proper place, to where it's a productive thing, a tool for you. But don't let it develop into something that burns you later, okay? All right, that's what I've got. I love you guys. I want to say thank you for joining me. This time with you is very special. I just really feel in my heart that the leadership skills that's on the inside of you, the things that God's called you to, I think you're at the point of letting all of that come out. And of course, that's what this leadership program is all about. And so I want you just to pull yourself together, and we got a brand new year, and it's going to be wonderful for you, and it's time that you take your place where God called you to be. I love you guys. If you have any questions, any comments, please let me know. Please push like and share in regard to this. Those are maybe somebody you know that needs that. If you would like more information, you can go to my website at jerryedmond.com. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that I possibly can. Okay, love you guys. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate your friendship, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next time. So until then, God bless you. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.